Hey everyone, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our latest tools and techniques, hashtag Ignite Innovation. Today's topic is going to be strategy beyond strategy, and it's presented by Oludayo Awe. Before we start, I'm just going to go through some of the house rules. So if you could please stay on mute unless clear to talk. Switch off your video. Only the presenter's video is allowed. The presentation will be 45 minutes long. You may post your questions in the main chat throughout the session. We will read them to the presenter when it is time for the Q&A. The presentations will be uploaded on the IIBA SA YouTube page, found at www.youtube.com/user/IIBASA. Unfortunately, we do not send out the presentation deck. To become a member of the IIBA South Africa, please go to www.iiba.org/business-analyst-membership. All of these links will be added to the chat so you can access them at a later stage. For our next event, please visit the IIBA South Africa events page at southafrica.iiba.org/events-list, or follow the IIBA LinkedIn page on www.linkedin.com/company/IIBA-South-Africa-chapter. If you would like to present a tool or technique to the community, please contact us at professionaldevelopment@southafrica.iiba.org. And before we continue with the presentation and introduction, there's just two announcements that I'd like to make. The first is, if you would like to actually join the Tools and Technique Planning Committee as a volunteer, please do let us know. You can send us an email, or you can actually add it to the chat and we'll reach out to you. And then for all registered members, just a reminder, the annual general meeting is scheduled for this weekend on Saturday. So please do register before that. You should have received an email with the links to the AGM registration. If you haven't, please do message us and we will get back to you. So before we actually go any further, I would like to introduce our speaker. Oludayo Awe is better known as Oludayo or Oludayo. He is the managing partner at the OS Concepts Consulting Limited in Nigeria. With over 15 years of experience in IT, software development, business process management, and project management, he holds certifications including PMP, BRMP, and CBAP. Oludayo founded and led the International Institute of Business Analysis in the Nigeria chapter for over 13 years. He holds an MBA from the University of Cape Town, Graduate Business School, and offers consulting services and teaches management courses across Africa, East, and Europe. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Olu to take us through his presentation. To handle.
Hello, good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good day, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Good day, Olu.
So before we dive into the presentation, I would like us to just do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Oh, beautiful. Good. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I want us to head over to this particular page and let me know once you can see the screen. So you can go to menti.com.
We can see
and
it.
then use that code 221374. I will drop that in the chat. So just simple question. Which industry do you consider to be the origin of strategy? Please can you just quickly head over to that page and okay, military, manufacturing. We have over 20 people in the room, so I expect more feedback. Okay. Nobody's choosing management. Okay. Maybe if I get about 15 responses, we can move on to the next one. We have 10. One or two more, and then we'll move on. So 8 people think it's military. 3 people are going for manufacturing. And we have somebody to think that it is management. So if you're just joining, just go to menti.com, use the code on the screen, and just respond to this simple poll. The industry considered to be the origin of strategy. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, there's another page. Let me put up the new page. A minute, please. Let's go ahead with your feedback on that particular page. I would like us to do this word cloud, synonyms for strategy, other names for strategy. So go over to that page and just, you can type as many as comes to your mind. So when you use the word strategy, what comes to your mind? What's as synonyms for strategy? Other word, big picture, okay. Guidelines, vision, plan, tactics, foresight, blueprints. Keep them coming, forward thinking, innovation, plan of action, anticipation. We have 13 responses so far. Now it's 14. I think we should expect a minimum of 20. We are over 30 in the room. Roadmap, guidelines, blueprints, organize, big picture, plan, innovation, forward thinking, direction, foresight, anticipation, architecture, how to, master plan. I think we have a lot of people with background in building, saying words like architecture, master plan. Okay. Anything new? Blueprint, direction, another blueprint, organize. Good. Okay. Thank you all for participating. So let's take a closer look at, I call this strategy beyond strategy. In actual fact, it's strategy beyond strategy analysis knowledge area in Babok. And simply put, I want to highlight some strategy techniques that were not captured in Babok, but they can be very useful to us as a business analyst, as a product manager, as a project manager, and even in our personal life. Now, first and foremost, like we all rightly deduce, the origin of strategy is military in nature. I'm sure many of us are familiar with that popular Chinese author, that popular Chinese general Sun Tzu. Legend says he lived like 2,000–3,000 years ago. And I'm sure many of us have seen his book, The Art of War. Now there's art of war for relationship, for management, for almost everything. And but the recent usage of that word is actually strategia, which is planning to win the war. Planning to win the war. And there's also the Greek version. So, but like I said, this is not going to be theoretical, no. You can get all of this information. But what I plan to do is to take some of these techniques and walk us through the usage. So in order to do that, I'm going to get an hypothetical company. I call it Niger Sparkle Limited. But if you're wondering what is Niger Sparkle, well, Niger is another word or another way that we use to refer to Nigeria. So if you don't know, I'm Nigerian, I'm a proud one. So I'm going to walk us through the strategy part. And the name of the company is Niger Sparkle Limited. So it's a startup with focus on consultancy, and they decided that we need to have a flagship product, something we can get into quickly. They're looking at the low-hanging fruit, and they said, oh, let's start with training. So what we intend to do in our brief is to use relevant techniques, look at the industry, look at their competitors, look at their strengths and weaknesses, and then we can make appropriate recommendation. So, like I said, I'm not teaching. We're all working through these techniques together. So the very first one, put us 5 forces framework we have out there. This is one of the most recent. And interestingly, it was developed in 1979 by Professor Mark Porters from Harvard Business School. And I'm saying it's still one of the most recent, because some of the techniques we are using now were developed in the 40s, in the 20s. So 1979 is still relatively recent. Now, why do we use this thing, this particular framework? Well, it's very useful in sizing up the industry to determine whether it's attractive enough, determine the level of competition, the barrier of entry. So that's why we use Porter's 5 forces. So before we dive in a little bit, because I have about 10 or 12 techniques and I'm mindful of the time. So if your work as a BA is to take a look at the industry, at the environment in which the subject, in this case, could be a company, it could be anything, will be operating, this would be a good one for you. And then I'm sure many of us are familiar with Porter's 5 forces. You look at analysis of buyers, of suppliers, of new entrants to the market. Is there any complementary business? What are the threats of substitutes? So this will give you a good idea of the industry you plan to enter or the industry you are in already. Now, the next one is what is called strategic planning horizon. Very interesting one, because for this particular technique, what we do is to say, we're in April 2024. What's going to happen in the next 2 years? So we have as mid-grant April 2025, and then we are looking at April 2026 as the end game. You know, so much people talk about strategy as the long plan, well, which is really true. But we live in a world where 2, 3 years now will have been 10, 15 years, 100 years ago. Because speed of things are happening fast. You know, so gone are the days where you plan for 20 years. Because there are things that can happen within the industry that can disrupt the current structure. So if you're using strategic planning horizon, you're looking at the next 2 years. Remember, they're getting into the training. So we divide this into three. The first part is, what are they doing in this industry that is diminishing? Yeah, it's still on, but really, it doesn't. The future for it is bleak. And one thing here is face-to-face classes, theory-based learning. And then you're looking at what are the things in these industries that are constant? And then the things in the industry that are emerging. For example, VR training, that virtual reality training, AI-enabled learning, gamification, in-app experience. And then see, if you notice, there are things that are actually in red. So we have internship learning program, personalized learning, and micro learning. I'm going to come back to those three later on. But you know, so what you're doing is you're looking at what are the potential impacts of the diminishing, the constant and emerging features of this industry on Niger Sparkle. If you're just joining us, Niger Sparkle is a hypothetical company we are working for today. And we're using various strategy techniques to come up with a strategic plan for this startup. Another technique that can be very useful is what is called life cycle curve. Life cycle curve. Now, it's actually divided into three. The first part, now, and it's closely related to the horizon that we just treated. The first part is, what do we do, or what are we doing, or what are people doing in that industry that are not enough, that is dying out? That's the first part. And then, what are they doing in that industry that is currently popular, you know, that is well accepted? That's what you have in the middle. And then the other part is, how can we innovate to differentiate ourselves? Now remember, depending on the industry you're analyzing, it won't come out the same way. So we could say getting certification is not enough again. We could say that what is trending now is, can I learn IT skills? Because of the high demand for such skills in the industry. And then we're now asking, what can we do in Niger Sparkle that can help us to differentiate ourselves from the crowd? Now, I'm sure many of us are familiar with the blue ocean, red ocean. Intentionally, I left it out. You know, so red ocean is where it's crowded, lot of players. And blue ocean is what can I do to differentiate, or what can we do to differentiate ourselves? And actually, that is the thinking behind the innovate to differentiate parts. Then another popular technique is what's called McKinsey situation analysis. McKinsey situation analysis. Now, as you can see, the first part is, what is the basis of the industry structure? And under this, we have three distinct parts. The first one is arm's length relationship. So see these as the people you are providing services to, but all you just do is to provide service. You are not doing anything apart from that. You are not personalizing. There's no relationship. It's like somebody coming to your store, buying something and just walking away. Somebody going to your website, ordering something and you deliver, that's all. And you're saying, in this industry, how do we provide the arm's length relationship? Usually people are shopping for the best deal. And this cuts across all industry. And the competition is actually very high. And really, what set people apart here is price. So we call it the commodification from the word commodity. Also, if we're going to buy a cup of coffee, because coffee is coffee, you're probably looking for where you can get a better deal, cheaper price. And that's the basis of arm's length relationship. And then there's what we call privileged relationship. So in this space, it could be, well, we provide some services for some organization. So we're on the pre-qualified list of vendors, or it could be referral program for past students. And because they're referring, they get some percentage or some deal for them. So we call this privileged relationship. And there's what is called codependent system. So codependent system, I would say this a lot in the aerospace industry. So for example, you see Boeing, which is popular because of the commercial aircraft. But of course, I know most of us be aware that Boeing also, they make military aircraft. And if we're going to develop something for the American Air Force, it's actually codependent. They develop it together because it's being tailor-made for the American Air Force. And then we also have that in the industry where you can identify the need of the client, and then you develop something exactly for them. Of course, we all know this is where we start talking about the requirement, the stakeholders' requirement, the solution requirement, but because it's not just for the general market. Now we'll move on to the next box, structure and resources. So you see, the first box is talking about the industry. Now the second box is talking about Niger Sparkle Limited. We want to find out where we have competitive advantage. What can we do that others will struggle to do? So you're saying we could leverage on existing structures and relationships with organizations and bodies in Nigeria and beyond to improve the value offering of the company. Well, we're talking about the structure and the resources. But you can't talk about strategy and you leave out your speed of execution. And that's where the second part is talking about execution and agility. How fast can we adapt? Can we push things out as fast as possible? Because if we can, it should be part of our competitive advantage. And then we talk about insight and foresight. What can we innovate? How can we create? Oh, for example, can we create upskilling program for people that are already working? They don't have the time to join a training program, but they also want to upskill because they want to earn more. Now remember, I keep saying this. We're looking at Niger Sparkle. It's an hypothetical company. they're into consulting, they see training as a low-hanging fruit. And we're all together developing the strategy. Now, the third and the last box is talking about prevailing level of uncertainty, the risk. And you see, if you're going to do arm's length relationship, what's the risk? It's quite low, but remember, competition is high. If we're going to do privileged relationship, the risk is medium, higher than arm's length relationship, but looking at what we're going to put in and what we're going to get out of it, it's higher than just doing something that is generic. And then if you're going to do codependent, something that is innovative and is insightful, the risk is quite high. Now remember, depending on the industry, depending on the subject matter, this will not be the same thing. I just want to be sure there are still people in the room. Hello, are you there? You've gone home?
We are here, Dayo, and we are enjoying your presentation.
Okay. I want to be sure that you're not going to watch rugby or cricket. Okay. Good. Now, the next technique is what is called strategic posture. Well, let me give a quick heads up on the three strategic posture. We have what is called shaping the future, quick to adapt, and reserve the right to play. Now, if you are shaping the future, you are at the forefront of innovation. Trying new things, using old ways, old methods to get new results, using things that are totally new. So for example, in the medical industry, or they're trying to personalize drugs to treat cancer and things like that. Yeah, the future. And then we have quick to adapt. For some people, the strategic posture is not to try to shape the future, but they're on the lookout for innovations that they can quickly adapt to. So they're not developing anything new, but they're trying to see how they can leverage on new things. And then you have what we call the reserve the right to play. Or reserve the right to play. And what it simply means is that you look good once in a while, scan the horizon and buy up those companies that are doing well, that are innovative. So we're not going to invest into R&D, we just acquire this company. And that is strategic posture. And then you see that all around us. You see that all around us. Now let's digress a little bit. AI is the buzzword now. And if you're talking about AI, you talk about OpenAI, the people that created ChatGPT. Now, those guys, those teams, you can say they are shaping the future because what they are working on is truly, truly innovative. Truly, truly innovative. And if you look at quick to adapt, you could see Google as a search engine. There's this other search engine in China. They're quickly adapting AI to what they're doing. So they are quick to adapt. And then you have the reserve the right to play. I think it was recently I read that I think Google or Microsoft that bought a company. They bought a company, one of the startups in Europe, I think in France. So they're saying, see, we just acquire all you've done so far, and we can continue from there. So that's reserve the right to play. So one of the things we should be doing is to advise Nigeria Sparkle to say that where can you fit in here? Now, phase one could be 12 to 18 months, could try to shape the future, quick to adapt. Phase 2, 18 months upward, we could be looking out for companies we can buy or we can merge with. So those are the 3 strategic postures. Now, another technique that I'll quickly talk about is what is called core and distinctive competencies. Now, when we talk about competencies, we have what is called existing competency and acquired competencies. An example of existing competency would be our industry knowledge, our product of offering, our unique value proposition. Those are the things that we have already. When we talk about the things that we can acquire, it could be from strategic partnership, it could be customer acquisition strategy, it could be agile operating models, we can acquire those. But remember what we have here is a matrix. In addition to existing and acquired competency, and this is what we're going to focus on, is what we call the distinctive competency and the core competency. Now, core competency talks about the things that are very useful in that industry, things that you must have. Now, for you to stay relevant, your core competencies must become distinctive. What does that mean? It means that it should be things that set you aside. So let's go back to the AI story. Remember, it's a digression, but you can go back to it and talk about it. One of the things that set them aside is they are not the pioneers of AI, but they actually popularized AI. They brought it into the mainstream with ChatGPT. So you're looking at what are the competencies that we can make distinctive, that will become associated with our brand. Remember, depending on the industry you're looking at and the subject matter varies from one industry to another or from one subject matter to another. So what will work for a startup will not work for an established organization. Strategic intent. Now, there's a lot of power in numbers. I want to ask, we're in what year right now? What year are we? Can anybody just maybe type or just unmute and just speak into your mind? This is year what? 2024. Thank you. 2024. Now, it's quite easier to remember. It's not difficult because it's part of why it is numbered. Numbers are easy to relate with. So when you talk about strategic intent, you can adapt numbers to summarize your strategy. So look at what we have here. The growth, they're saying, well, we want to offer product from the current 0 to 15. Spread, income, upskilling and reskilling. So the strategic intent code here is 15-12-1 for the next 3 years, 15-12-1. And I've actually seen organizations that they made a poster from the strategic intent all over the world, even as a screensaver. So it's just to remind themselves of what they plan to do the next 2 years or the next 3 years. You just codify it. So that's what we call strategic intent code. Okay, I need to be a little bit faster. Now, maybe it should be the last one or second to the last. Analysis of uncertainties, scenario, and options. So remember, they're looking at the low-hanging fruit, which is provision of specialized training. So the very first thing is to determine the two situations that have the highest impact on Nigeria's sparkle. And that is remote working and remote learning. Remote working and remote learning. Now, if remote working is accepted, so and is high, and remote learning is not accepted, that's one scenario. Another scenario is that remote working is accepted and remote learning is also accepted. That's another scenario. And the other two scenarios would be remote learning is accepted and remote working is not accepted. And each of these quadrants will give us, something similar to high influence, low interest quadrant, will give us different results. Now, this particular technique, you use images, maybe a movie to pass across the message. So if you look at this, the best scenario for them is where we have the rich, young, and African. I think it's one of series, it's a series on DSTV or Netflix. And that is if remote working is accepted and remote learning is accepted. What does mean is that they can provide services at a lower cost. And then what's the worst case scenario for them?
I would think if both is not accepted, remote working and remote learning is not accepted.
Differentiation is difficult and technology has little impact on operations. The week of, there are movies in a way that pass across certain message, like, oh, it's catastrophic, that's how it ends. Or, oh, we're in high demand, we have lower operating costs, there's increased and potential for crazy riches. We call that rich, young, and African. Now, quickly, the ERCC grid. So we look at what do we eliminate, what can we raise, and what can we create? So by the time we've gone through everything we've done, we say, oh, we can eliminate theory-based learning, we can reduce physical or traditional class learning format, we're able to reduce our costs and expenses. We can raise the profile of our virtual classes, internship program, job placement program. We can create micro-learning on the job support and mentorship program. Now, remember, when we look at the horizon, the strategic horizon, we highlighted micro-learning as part of the emerging trend, Well, this is the value map and customer profile. This is actually from business canvas, business model canvas. We just focus on the value map. And you see we have for B2C and we have for B2B. B2B is business to business, whereas B2C is business to customer. So if you are offering services for corporate customers, I think I have how many more minutes now? Okay.
3 minutes to go.
How many more minutes?
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes. Okay, let me see what I can cover in 3 minutes. Yes, I must talk about the diamond model. I have to talk about diamond model. So if you're using the diamond model, we can understand how we can increase customers. How? By developing new products and services so that we can reach more people. So it's divided into 4. We have our arena. So we look at our current service offering, ICT courses, what we want to leverage on the remote working model. We want to offer certification to people from Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. What vehicle are we using? The B2C model, the B2B model, our online offering, our online communities. And how do we want to differentiate ourselves? Now, everything that we're wrapping up here are things we've taught in time past, in this presentation. Remember, we're talking about our distinct competency. So we should improve our brand reputation, and then we should implement the online community strategy using the freemium model. Free but premium services will come at a cost. Now we have our staging. What do you want to do in the first year? You can develop content for micro-learning, create partnership, implement online community, create mobile app. And then year 2, what we plan to do. And then if we're experiencing the worst case scenario, and remember our worst case scenario is remote work is no longer accepted, and then the remote training is not accepted. So that's the worst case scenario. So what do we do differently? So we look at our arena again. A minute, please. Okay.
You're on time now.
So-
If you want to just wrap up.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up now. Thank you. So we're saying in the worst case scenario, we can subsidize or offer online classes at a cheaper rate. We can, because the more people we have in our online classes, the lower our operating costs. We can do more hands-on training, but we know that the cost of offering services to clients outside of the country will definitely go up. Then how do we still differentiate? Still the same thing, but maybe what we're going to be changing will be how we present it, and that's the arena. Yeah, staging is the same, even though we'll probably have to reduce what we plan to do. But we go to our arena and say, what can we offer at a cheaper cost? Now, usually, it's not every time that your worst case scenario, your worst fear, your worst nightmare will materialize. But it's always good to have
Hi, Olu, are you still there? We seem to have lost your sound.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep, you were saying the worst case.
Okay, so I said the worst case scenario most likely will not occur, but it's always good to have a plan, have a strategy in place if you are faced with your worst case scenario. And then with this, we can make our presentation or our recommendation, I beg your pardon, to Niger Sparkle Limited, saying what next? Where do we go from here? And that's it, what will be our strategy document. So as I wrap up, must we use everything that I pointed out? Not necessarily. You understand the subject matter, the understanding of the industry will guide you on the techniques to leverage on. I think with that, come to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olu. That was really, really informative and a lot of information to take in as well. So we've got some questions for you. I'm going to start. The first one is from Subasiso. Can you please explain the S-like line across the phases?
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. So, yeah, so the S line is saying that, and I'm sure that is where we're looking at innovation, where we're moving from free to play, right? Is that part? Shaping the future, quick to adapt, and reserve the right to play. Is it that part you are referring to?
Yes, it is, Dayo.
Oh,
That's the strategic posture.
strategic posture. Good. So, if there's no innovation, there won't be any need to adapt. So, and at the shaping the future stage, it's a bit low, it's forming that X because few people are playing in that space. But when we move to the quick to adapt phase, you see more people are playing in that phase. And then in the reserve the right to play, more bigger players are playing in that space. So it's showing the number of players we have in each of these phases. I hope that helps.
Thank you. The next one is from an anonymous participant. If an organization has already defined its strategy, can we still use these techniques? So Deborah has also added to that, in a situation where you join an ongoing project that forms a major part of the organization's strategy. So if there's a strategy in place, either at organization level or at project level, can you still use these techniques?
So there's no right or wrong way to look at strategy because sometimes you can reevaluate your strategy to see whether it's working, to see whether it is proceeding as anticipated. And to also answer the question, if the project is ongoing, of course, if you're just joining an ongoing project, you should be more concerned about implementation, more about rather than strategy. But the knowledge of all of these techniques can actually help us in our implementation. Because strategy tactic, right, is to help us implement strategy. So what we call tactics is usually project. And sometimes when the project doesn't align with our strategy, you won't know unless you are aware of what a strategy is. So having the knowledge of these techniques in a way or form or shape will always be useful. Whether you are formulating new strategy or you are evaluating current strategy or you are implementing company strategy. I hope that helps.
Thanks. The next question is from Subasiso again. Is the McKinsey situation analysis related to the McKinsey 7S?
No, there are two different techniques. It's not the same thing. Of course, they are both coming from McKinsey, but they're not the same technique.
Okay, and then there's another one. Why is it called a diamond model?
It's because of the shape. So if you look at the shape, it looks like a diamond.
And I know this might sound silly, but strategy, a lot of people go into strategic planning. You've got a strategy, you've got a vision, all signed and agreed upon, and then that's it. It's placed on the walls and that's where it stays. What do you think? How should it be? Should it be continuously evolving? How often should you be changing it? Because you don't want to change the goalpost all the time. So how does that fit in for strategic planning?
One of the reasons why strategy ends up in drawers, gathering dust, is because maybe it's not properly communicated or it's not a living document. And that's one of the things that the strategic intent code will help to address. Or if we know that we're supposed to achieve a certain number of growth within the next 6 months, and now is the 3rd month, and we're nowhere close to where we want to be, then we know that it's high time we revise our strategy. So for me, I think the best thing is to make sure that it is not just one ancient document stored away in a folder or in a file or in a crypt. It's something that inform our daily decision. And the only way we can get that done is to make it something that is simple, turn it into a code that everybody can relate to it.
Thank you, dear. That actually really helps. Just want to check if there's any more questions. How important is branding in relation to strategy, especially with regard to the position in the market?
Well, there's a whole lot of strategy around branding, because branding is how you want to be seen in the market. So there is a whole lot of ball game around coming up with your branding strategy. So it's really very important because brand can be one of your distinctive competency. You talk about Coca-Cola, and somebody once said that if their plant got burnt down, in 6 months, they'll be back to where they are because of the brand, So when you're talking about how you want to be seen, we're talking about continuity, you're talking about the position in the market, branding is extremely important. And like I said, a lot goes into branding. Of course, you need certain competency in marketing, in public relationship. But yes, it's the same strategy because it's saying, this is where we want to go to. How do we get there?
I have another question. Usually when you hear about strategy, it's always those people at the top that are making these decisions and then telling us what to do. At what level should we or could we actually get involved with the actual strategy and decision making around it?
It's a tricky one because if you don't have a place at the table, if you are not invited to the table, it might not be part of strategy formulation. But if you're part of any organization, at least you'll be part of the strategy implementation. So everybody has a role to play in strategy. You might not be the one that developed the strategy, but if you're useful in that organization, you should be part of people that will implement the strategy. But this is how I love to see it. If you cannot work on strategy in the corporate environment, or I could invest time to work on strategy on things that have to do with my personal life. So because it's exactly the same thing, it's just that we're applying it in different arena. So strategy is not exclusively for the top management. It should be for everybody. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. It definitely does. Yeah, I think strategy, visioning, all of that usually comes top down. And usually to actually get it implemented in, you actually need to have buy-in from everyone because they're the ones that are actually going to carry that strategy through. So the sooner people can actually get involved into that strategy implementation, at least, the better for the whole company. Okay, are there any other questions that anyone has? Okay. Olu, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for taking your time and for actually giving us so much to think about. I think you should actually consider this as maybe looking at it for a micro planning session where we could actually have it be more workshop-like and interactive, and people could actually ask you along the way and get more insight in each of the sections and techniques. In terms of the questions, please, are we going to get the recordings? Yes, recordings will be shared. Sorry, it wouldn't be shared. It'll be uploaded to the IIBA SA YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch them there. Also, if you have LinkedIn, please do look out for Oludayo on LinkedIn and follow him, and you can actually ask more questions if you have them. Thank you, Olu, so much for this, and thank you, everyone, for taking your time out of your day to actually attend these sessions. Let's plan for the next one. So keep sight of that. Just a couple reminders again. If you want to join the IIBA as a volunteer or as a volunteer for this particular committee that runs these tools and technique microlearning sessions, please send an email through to us. Just put in your subject heading volunteer, and it's to professionaldevelopment@southafrica.iiba.org. And then once again, if you're a member of the IIBA SA, the annual general meeting is taking place on this Saturday. So please try and register before that session. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night further.
Thank you so much, Nalita. Thank you, Dayo. That was a brilliant one. I have a note full of things I need to test out in my personal space. I appreciate you.
Thanks once again, Olu. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.